Peter and Virginia Chiquella, and me and my wife Josephine at that time, we were living upstairs and downstairs from each other. So we always had something doing with each other, you know. Then when the kids start coming, we had, you know, upstairs and downstairs, take care of each other, you know. So we lived together for a long time until we finally then bought away from each other, and then still we used to see each other all the time. I was real very close. I used to have a shoe repair shop on Newport and Kirchville years ago in Detroit. I was in the shoe repair business. Then guys used to come and eat lunch at my shoe shop, you know, the guys from the post office. So the one guy was kept on talking about party stores, party stores, party stores. I said, son of a bitch, I got to look into this, you know. So I looked into it and opened up Johnny's Party Store on Mac near 9 Mile, just between 9 Mile and 8 Mile, mostly between closer to 9 Mile. So I opened up the party store, and naturally, once I had the party store, and business was going good. Then guys used to eat the sandwich. Kowalski sausage used to come in my store, so I eat Italian sausage for me, and we got to be good, real good, close friends. So then little by little, these United States Department of Agriculture, they wanted to know if we could do something for Sandwich Month, which is the month of August. So between me and Kowalski and the Department of Agriculture, I said, well, we can make maybe sandwiches, you know. And I got the idea of making a big sandwich. Somebody said something about making a 3-footer. So I said, well, make a 6-footer, you know. So I come out with the idea of making a 6-footer. So we made the 6-foot submarine sandwich, and we made it on Bosa the Clown, and we made it at Tiger Stadium, and we made it up at Boyne Mountain, and that's when we had the Michigan Food Dealers Association convention, and Bob Evans, man, he saw that sandwich. That's the one I should have told him, how about marketing that for me? Yeah. But you didn't think of them days, you know. Oh, no, this is my own Italian sub, a real sub. I mean, where you're going to have a tough time trying to get your mouth around it.
My niece went into the store, he was working in Eastland, and she went in there and she wrote her name down on the receipt, and her name was Vita Alice. So when he saw the name Vita Alice, he said to her, you wouldn't have an aunt by that name, would you? She says, yes, I do. She said, but she's living in New York. Her name is Coppola now. So he said, well, does she ever come to Michigan? She said, she's coming in for my wedding. He said, well, I would like to see her when she comes in. So she calls me up that night. She said, Auntie Vita, you never guess who I saw last night. I said, oh. She said, well, you told me to remind you of Eastwood Park, Belle Isle, and the prom day, that we went to the prom together. And I said, you mean John Pirrone? She said, oh, you remember him too? I said, of course I do. So I said, well, I told him you're coming in for my wedding. She said, we're going to take you to see him. So I did come in for her wedding. A couple of days later, she went on her honeymoon. My brother came in from New York too. I had a brother living in New York also. He came in, and we all went to see him. The whole family went down there at the store. And
Over Eastland. Yeah, at Eastland Mall. I was managing the shop at that time when they come over to see me.
Yeah. And we shook hands. We started talking about our old times, and then we talked about our family, that I had 3 children, and he had 2. Told me about his daughters, and I told him about my kids. And we talked for a little while, and then that was it. And then I says to him, well, maybe someday we'll meet again. And he says, yes. So he told me his wife was, had gotten a stroke or something.
A stroke.
And I told him that my husband had died about 3 years at the time. But when we got married, I was a widow for 12 years already. And so then I went back to New York, and we never contacted each other again. Then after his wife passed away, about a year later, he calls me up. And I says, hello, who's this? He says, John. I said, John who? He said, John Pirrone, remember me? I said, yeah, sure, I remember you. He says, how you doing? And we start talking, and they called me again. And then he says to me, I'm going to Florida. He said, and I'll call you from there. And he called me from Florida. And then he came down to see me with my brother. And when he came down there, he brought a little gift for me, a little heart. And he said, proposed to me after and said, would you marry me? And I said, well, I have a big decision, to make and give up my apartment and everything. I spoke to my children. And they all were so happy for me because I was having it rough. I was a widow, and I was a mortgage on my shoulders, and working at 72 yet, and because I was 72 years old when he came over to propose to me. Like, was it to us when we met? It felt like we just were the same place we met years ago. We didn't feel there was that span in between, you know.
Yeah.
Like we knew each other all along. There was no span in between.
So was it?
And I came down here, and we got married here because he had a bigger family than I had. And my family all came down. We had a nice wedding, and then he took me to Europe to see all my relatives in Europe, and we went to Sicily and Rome and all that. So his family came from Acamo, and my family from Sicily. They're only about a half hour apart. When we went to Sicily, we went to visit both relatives, his and ours, mine.
Oh, no, thank you.
No, thank
No,
you.
thank you.
You sure?
Very
Yes.
good.
And that's what they call a sub, not some of the stuff that they sell like at Subway or all that bullshit.
That goes on tape.
I wish I was younger.
Yeah.